Mr. James Scarlett. I made it. We go again.
You're alive, Gav. I'm very, very happy to see you. You've been the quietest I've ever known you. What's been going on?
Oh, mate, so on the last week's podcast, I said, "Oh, you know what? I've been feeling a wee bit lacking energy, but I feel like I'm getting a colour back in my face. I feel like I'm finally getting over whatever hump that was. That was the healthiest that I've felt in the past week because soon afterwards I had crashed and then realised that I had caught COVID with alongside my brother at that Kneecap gig that I was singing and dancing about. So that would have been re-recorded on the Wednesday. By the Wednesday night, I said to my wife Kelly, I'm really starting to struggle. Something's just not right. And then by the Thursday, I was dead, and I remained dead till about yesterday. And then I knew this was coming as well. So I've got my hot drink, I've got my cold drink, I've got my paracetamol and brufen in me, and I'm like, let's see if I can manage 60 minutes of conversation because fuck me, man, I've been hit with a bus that reversed over me and then hit me again. It's brutal.
Wow. Oh, mate. Well, you were bragging last week about having 2 days being clean for 2 days. So I'm guessing
Oh,
at least you're still clean.
I'm as clean as can be. I'm ready. I'm ready to start going to fucking AA meetings, giving talks to other people. That's how clean I am. Fuck's sake. I've uh, I've done nothing but lie in bed and shiver and have fever dreams. I had this fever dream that it was a band called Thou have came to the UK and started playing cupboards instead of Damnation. That's how that's how fucking ridiculous the
Mate,
COVID's hit me. It's a festival called Out.
that is a niche joke to say the least.
There's a festival called Outbreak, right? That decided just to do the same festival over download in two different cities. I mean, that's how fucking weird my fever dreams have been. So I am glad to be back. I don't think I've had a conversation with anybody longer than 10 minutes in the last week, and I'm hoping that's the end of it. If I do start a coughing fit during this, or or if you just see me collapse, just go on with me, pal. All right, I'll hit the mute button and I'll just go on with me. You can do me on the record for me and ask people to donate to the coffee, and we'll get through it. So,
You can do it.
it's been rough, but no, here we are. I'm not here. This isn't a save me podcast. I'm here to entertain. So let's chat, big man. How have you been?
Good. I've been very good, although I've had a disastrous day. I don't know if the people need to know this, but I feel that it's so in the forefront of my mind that I have to talk about it. That I got up this morning and started work, and I thought I'm going to go and chase some band offers up. So I went into my spreadsheet, which has multiple tabs in this spreadsheet, and it's got my ATG lineup for next year. It's got my trees lineup for next year, various other stuff. And I started chasing the bands, and I was looking at the spreadsheet, and I was thinking that doesn't look up to date. What the fuck? And basically, to cut a long story short, we our our documents are all on a server, so it automatically backs up. For whatever reason, it hadn't. So my entire last week of band booking has just gone up in smoke, the whole fucking lot of it, right? And I made about 20 or 30 trees offers. I made about 40 ATG offers. And then the spreadsheet I'm looking at this morning doesn't reflect any of that. And I'm talking about me taking a band that I was going to pay 5 grand on the yokai stage, changing them to a different day, paying them 10 grand and putting them on the main stage.
Yeah.
And that's all just gone. And even like having ideas and being like, oh yeah, I should probably email thou. I'm going to put thou in my spreadsheet. It's just like everything is fucking gone for the last week. And it just happens that the last week has been a week of band booking. And anyone who's ever had that I've lost loads of work thing with Excel will know how I felt. You literally just want to go around your house with a blowtorch, just smashing windows and burning everything. There's just like the moment you realize it and you know there's no way back, and you've done all the like recovery things and version control, and you've been through all the fucking help desks.
And
Sarah and Simon are my help desk.
what is it? Like, so an email chain, is that your best hope,
Yeah,
basically?
so I spent the morning going through my last week of emails. So that picks up a lot of it. But it can't pick up anything that I didn't tell the agent about, and it can't pick up anything that any ideas I had, or
Any
I'm like,
discussions either as well? If you made an offer for a number, but there was also you've had a discussion with the agent about,
yeah,
I don't know, an idea of playing twice in an album set or
yeah, yeah.
anything.
But I'll often be like, let's say I'll be on Instagram and a band will come up that I've never heard of, and I'll click on it and I'll be like, oh, that band's from Bristol. I'm going to listen to that. Oh, fucking hell, that's good. And then I'll just write them in my band booking spreadsheet in red text or whatever, just to remember to go back to it. So it's kind of like there's some stuff that I will never manage to get back. I think I've,
There was a band's career that was about to be born that will just never be buffed.
yeah,
Blame
yeah.
Excel, not James.
So
Not
yeah,
James.
so that was an absolute world of pain. Anyway, but the on a more positive note, and this might be the last time we talk about this band for a while because we've become the Kneecap podcast. But last week I went to see Kneecap live, and fucking hell, man, I really want to avoid repeating everything you said, but having listened back to last week's episode, I think the way you described Kneecap was so perfect, and you said something along the lines of it. They managed to get the balance right between like politics and just fun.
Yeah,
Sniffer dogs are shite, and the like the Palestine politics and the Irish politics. And they managed to get the balance between that so fucking perfect. And the crowd in Bristol were fucking going for it.
yeah,
It was absolutely brilliant, amazing. I am I'm honestly not saying this as the 2000 Trees booker. I'm saying this as a music fan. They were fucking brilliant. I'm fully on board the hype train. It was really nice as well that when the support were on, I was stood at the side of the stage watching the support, and the booking agent was there, and Kneecap was stood there watching it, and the agent said, "Oh, this is James. He runs 2000 Trees." And two of them, in separate conversations, said to me, "Fucking hell, I don't know what's going on at this 2000 Trees. We don't understand why everyone loves us." But they were like, I'm trying really hard not to try and do their accents, but the 2000 Trees just get us, and we don't understand why. We look around. One of them said to me, "It's like a field full of metalheads," which I was thinking, don't tell Gav that Trees is metalheads, but it's filled full of rock fans, is what he meant, I think. And they get us, and they were like super stoked to be headlining Trees this year, and they were
yeah.
really
Class.
appreciative. So look, I came out of that with like a bounce in my step. That gig was fucking great, and even though we've talked about the film a lot, I've only actually just watched the film as
Oh,
well.
oh, oh,
Um,
thank you. Thank you so much for fucking reminding me, right? Because I do feel like I'm being trolled by that fucking group, right? I was going to ask you, come on, have you even seen the Kneecap film? Because I have now read three or four individual thank you note messages to you. James, thank you for the recommendation. I've seen Kneecap. Like, it was fucking me. It was me. You're going to set me off with my fucking
he's gone. He's gone. I did see that. It was pretty funny that I
You're
was
a
getting all
cheeky
the credit.
bastard. You like them. You like the posts. And I'm going, oh, well, by the way, I think I get enough undue credit for this fucking podcast. Never mind stealing Gav's recommendation. That somebody posted about 2 weeks ago. And I said, I think you're trolling because it was clearly me that went at length about it. And then James goes, I'll check it out. I've got a kid and I've had no other chance. And then someone else came in this week and said, oh, just thanks to James again. I'm like, these cunts are at it. They're fucking at it. I'm in my deathbed. Fucking don't know how long I've got left, right? And I'm reading this shit on the fucking group.
Yes, mate. I saw all that. I thought it would wind you up. Um, but the film, honestly, look, anyone who's like, I'm never going to be into Kneecap, fine. Don't listen to the music. Don't go and see him live. But you should definitely watch the film. The film's fantastic. It stands apart. It stands separately from the music. I think you don't need to like the music. I have no idea what bits of that film are real and what bits aren't real. I would love to know. I think they've intentionally done it
Yeah.
so that you won't know, and they probably will never tell you. Because it's like I think it's based in reality, but
Yeah, I mean, it's
um,
basically based mostly on a true story, but they said, and I've went down a bit of a kneecap, this has become a kneecap fucking podcast. I went down a bit of a kneecap rabbit hole and I've watched a lot of interviews and they said some of the more outlandish stuff, like the crazy storylines are the ones that are true, and it's maybe bits that have been fluffed up elsewhere that weren't true. So, aye, that fucking great, great, absolutely brilliant. You came away with a spring your step, I came away with Irish COVID. But we will all celebrate together at 2000 Trees if I fucking make it there. And I
mate,
what
isn't that going to be wild? I now understand it because I've now seen them live after they've sort of broken and they've got a the fans are fucking like wired and going for it.
Yeah,
Everyone. And there's like, I think you might have said there's such a mixture of different ages and like the sort of music that people would normally listen to.
aye.
It's like some rock fans and I don't know what everyone who some of the people are that are there, but they are all going batshit crazy. So yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that's when you can get in your likes of they were on Jimmy Kimmel, weren't they? In America, when you're getting well, you're reaching everyone, all sort of age groups. So aye, good for them. Delighted you enjoyed it as much. I did see a couple of your videos. It did look wild. So it wasn't a case of just going to the Barrowlands and that's where it all kicks off. The rest of the country, it looks like it was bananas everywhere that they played. So and that is going to be such a. And I'm interested to see what they do with a headline slot and just how big the production is going to be for them. But aye, fucking madness, absolute madness.
Yeah. Happy days. So I guess you haven't got a lot of an update for us other
Well,
than lying
weirdly, I
down in
never
your.
done anything. Well, I suppose I did. I fucking booked a shit ton of bands and spent a shit ton of money. Now the first Damnation announcement's going to come out. So the blind bird tickets will go off sale. I'm just working this out with schedule at the moment, but I think they'll probably go off sale at midnight on Saturday, the 30th of November, and then on Monday at 10 a.m. the first, I don't know, maybe dozen bands for Damnation 2025, the 2 day special, will be announced. And there's a lot of crackers on there. It's a flavour, there's no headliners in it, but it's a flavour of, it's a good mix, good cross section of what you've got. And then, as I said last week when I was getting that whole dreamy state about, we're calling it no having headliners, but that's not really, there'll always be a closing band that's a sizable, established closing band. It's a difference of maybe not spending 40, 50, 60, 70 grand in a band where you can say you can share that across the rest of the bill, but still paying fucking a shit ton of money for the band at the top of that bill. So I think there's some confusion about this idea that they're just the event having no one at the top of the poster. That's not what it's about, but I'm going to give, we have one last roll of the dice with it. We are going to put the tickets on sale. Currently, there's about shy of 1,700 tickets sold blind. If we get anywhere near the 4,000 mark by the end of December, we're going to change track completely on the way we book Damnation, and we're just going to let our imaginations run wild because we'll basically have a mandate from the fans to say, go and fucking do it. Go and look under rocks and make bands reform and fly in bands who otherwise you wouldn't pay the money for,
Yeah.
because you don't need to now go and pay that stupid amount for a band that we'll see regularly through the big cities because they've got the sales data to make that the more tried and tested approach. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be pretty transparent with it. We're going to say that this is what's happening. If we can hit 4,000 in here, that'll pretty much secure a successful Damnation for next year. Let's use, for an example, like Behemoth like would be a great big headliner for Damnation. They're not available anyway, so it's not like, oh, if you don't, we're going to go and book Behemoth. They're not available for next year. But you can take that and say, right, instead of that, well, how about a Dismember, Repulsion, The Hope Conspiracy, The Red Chord, some reformations of bands. I mean, what style of Damnation excites you more? Because you get fans out there that are desperate to see a band like Dismember play, a legendary death metal band like Dismember play in the UK. But the truth of the matter is they're not cheap. So you need to know they're worth it. And they've
Yeah.
been booked for two UK festivals and both collapsed. So that tells its own worrying story in top. So it's a bit like, if you want us to go and chase those bands and offer pretty sizable fees for bands that when they come across here maybe do the London Underworld, then aye, shows. Buy, put your £5 up on your booking fee on Monday. Let's get to that 4,000 mark, and then we will just run wild. So we'll see how it goes. It's a wee bit frightening because ultimately, if you're going to be transparent about it, and then you say, look, we've done 42 tickets, it feels like a bit of a damp squib, and then everybody's a bit like, but at least then you know. And then after that, I'll never try again. That'll be it. I'll just go. The reason that this sector works like this, and the reason that people book tried and tested headliners that have sales data and history in the cities around about the UK is because it works, and that's, stop trying to go against the grain in an arena level. But at least I'll give it one last one last roll of the dice. So that's what I've been lying in bed thinking about for the last 5 days. Let's just go and give it one last bash, and if it works, then fucking brilliant. I honestly think the lineup we could put together would be something else. And if it doesn't, the lineup we put together will look a bit more traditional, but it'll still be something else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, good for you. I mean, I think it is quite freeing once you decide you can spend the money to like get some bands back together or to fly over. Or it doesn't matter if they're on tour. I mean, even like with Carnival this year, it's just like they were like, no, we're not on tour. I was like, well, how much is it going to be for you to just come over? And I'm currently doing that with other headliners at Arctangent, where it's like, and I did it with Alexis on Fire. It's like, yeah, you're not on tour, so let's talk about how we make you be on tour. Um, but yeah, but you're going to pay more than double probably, aren't you, than
Yeah.
what they're actually usually priced
It,
at. So
it's a funny conversation because you're talking about like spending all this money on your traditional headline size band, but ultimately what you're doing though is you're going to these bands that are, I don't know, maybe want, they're probably worth five, but want 15. You know what I mean? So they're like,
yeah,
we're just no get, we're not getting it on a plane and coming across unless we're getting some money at the other side. And they've got every right to ask. Or they're like, we can go to Germany or France and some of the major festivals give us 20 grand. And you're like, that's financial suicide for something like Damnation to pay five or six of these type of bands 15, 20 grand. And then you're a bit like, unless there's already 500,000 or so sitting in the bank. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And it's like the fans at that point they'll say, right, okay, you're 20 years in, we trust you. There's the money. Go and provide what you say you're going to provide. And then at which point you do it. And then can I wait? Like, what excited you most? Was it the Julie Christmas set or the Electric Wizard set? Was it the Nails and Dragged Into Sunlight, or was it the Cradle of Filth set? And it's a bit like I keep seeming to find the answers always the Julie Christmases and the Dragged Into Sunlight and Nails, and not so much the Electric Wizards or the Cradle of Filth. So, but we'll see. I feel like there's a bit of me that's just, I don't want to be pessimistic about it, else I wouldn't do it. But there's a bit of me that's realistic as well. I mean, we've done this whole thing before. Like promoters all say, the best event you ever get is if everyone bought early. We would definitely everything would be better because the security would be there to do it, and then people don't buy early. So I feel like I already know how this might pan out, but there's no point me, you, or any of the industry sitting moaning about why fans don't support things if don't give them the opportunity to do it. So this is it. This will be the opportunity, and we'll see if it works or if it doesn't.
Well, you convinced me. Let's all go and buy our tickets. That sounds fucking great, mate.
You're like, get me on that balcony. Let's go. Hey, hit us up, James. Let's start taking some questions. Well, I'm no coughing my lungs up.
Okay, there's a couple of related questions for the first two. So Craig McNoyes says, I know you've discussed posters a fair few times, but what are your thoughts on altering posters after they've already been released? This is inspired by Download editing their poster over the past couple of days to make Meshuggah a logo band. Holy shit, they did. Fuck me. It's so good. It makes the world all okay again. It makes me feel so warm and fuzzy inside.
Not only is it just like it doesn't. Like, firstly, if you haven't listened to Ball Ache of Billing, please pause this right now and go back and listen to that episode because you'll know why James and I are smiling so much for this. Because even the mighty, powerful download aren't immune to the Ball Ache of Billing and being chased about by fucking bands. And what's I suppose a bit funny about that is that's the one that we identified when we
Yeah.
saw it on spec. It was like, oh, there's a few day bands, the management and agents are not going to be happy not to have logos. I mean, Meshuggah are a sizable band. I mean, the headline Bloodstock and Arctangent, I mean, they're a sizable band not to have a logo, especially when, I mean, and no disrespect to Sixth, but Sixth aren't a bigger band than Meshuggah, and neither are Cradle of Filth, for example. So when the next poster came out, it was like, oh, I wonder what Gavin James have got to say about this. No, Gavin James don't know anything about it. We can only speculate. We can only speculate, and I would speculate there was probably a dozen or more agents, managers, whoever, who fought their case, and Meshuggah's agent was probably their manager, was one of them, and won, I suppose, to get into that bracket above where the logo is. But aye, it's your eye smile because James and I get this
Yeah.
continuously, and we'll get this. I've got a poster coming out on Monday, and I'm about to do this dance.
Mate, you best get that out there. What day is it? Wednesday. Oof. That I always think Monday announcements are dangerous because you know you're going to wake up Monday morning and have to change the poster.
Don't, James.
He looks nervous for anyone not watching on YouTube.
Don't.
Um, so I've had it confirmed to me. I did a little bit of digging in on this, and um, you were correct, Gav, when we did the live reaction to download that stage headliners are automatically given logo billing. So as part of the offer, it says you are stage headlining, you will get logo billing. And then, so that might, I'm not saying who that might, that could be Apocalyptica or Cradle of Filth, say. Maybe they're headlining the fourth stage. I don't know. But Meshuggah presumably are second from top on the second stage or something like that. Maybe in the carnival slot from this year's download.
Yeah.
Um, so they don't automatically qualify for a logo. And I'm going to guess that Download don't want their poster to be leaked. So their approvals process isn't quite as robust as ours is, as in, but some of those agents didn't see that poster. I'm going to guess Meshuggah's agent didn't see that poster until it's like there's an hour to go.
Yeah.
And they must have properly gone mad about it.
Aye.
You wouldn't change it unless somebody was really like,
Yeah. I mean, aye. Because it's one of those ones. I mean, we're going to go to the next question. It's one of those ones, once you break it for one person, it's a bit like when that's when the avalanche start. You need to, at some point, you need to, because every agent, every band, every manager wants their band one up, one to the right, one up, one with logo into the next bracket. If you think there's anyone out there that goes, oh, you know what? I just stick us at the very bottom, and we'll be delighted. That never happens. And we'll, that whole episode with Unreadable like a Bill, and they will come up with some weird and random reasoning for why a band should be above the other band, and there's never an end to the amount of ways they can come to tell you band A is bigger than band B or vice versa. So, aye, it's a. I hope. I mean, end they were smiling. I hope poor Cam or whoever his Live Nation was absolutely dragged over the coals about it. But it's just one of the quirks of this business, the
I
bollock
mean,
ability.
he's ended up with possibly the most random poster ever because you've got McFly followed by Meshuggah, which is just the things you thought you'd never see. McFly followed by Meshuggah.
And sticking with that, John Weldon, I want to know what the boys think about the Coachella lineup, but more specific, oh, Jesus man, more specifically the fact that the Misfits and only the Misfits get a logo on the poster. Wild. Thoughts on what's happened here? Festival decision or band agent wangling? Again, with no inside information, that is 100% the band and the management of the band. So, aye. I don't know if people notice it stands out or just the listeners of this podcast are now forensically studying every single lineup poster that goes out, but that was a bit weird because am I right in thinking that the headliners don't even have a logo on the Coachella poster?
Correct. Correct. It's mad. So no one, like there is probably 200 bands on that poster, including three. Who's the headliners? Is it Post Malone, Green Day, and someone else, I think? And they haven't got their logos on there. Um, I think the Misfits are in this wonderful position where they don't do that much stuff, and they're basically it's like this is our rule. We don't even want to. We are the Misfits. We will not discuss anything
Yeah.
other than this. You will not write our name in any way other than that. And I think if you don't really give a fuck, like they probably don't, then you're not for the bending, are you? It's
No.
not it's not a career move.
Aye.
Do you want us? Yes. Okay, we'll get the logo on there, please.
Yeah.
There's
What?
literally 100 to 200 bands in plain text, including the headliners, and they're just the misfits. Brilliant. Fair play.
The problem that Coachella have got with that now is that poster goes out and Billie Eilish and Post Malone and fucking. I mean, I've been interested. I don't remember seeing a poster with Metallica on it that didn't have the Metallica logo. You seen a Metallica? Like with Metallica when they played Coachella, when they played Glastonbury, did they have their logo on it? I feel like every time I've always seen Metallica is always in the Metallica font.
I feel like I have. I feel like I have, and do you know why? Because when we did those Arctangent posters, we started doing logoless posters, much to your annoyance. And one of my arguments with agents was, fuck, look, even fucking Metallica sometimes do this. You can't be like, we must have our logo. It's just not, if you're Carnival, Meshuggah, Opeth, Devon Townsend, you don't get to make that argument. If Metallica we'll do it.
Aye.
I'm pretty certain we managed to dig one out.
There was like a, I mean, fair enough. And if the whole, and there is plenty of logoless festivals out there, but if you're Post Malone's management and you spot that and you're a bit like, so what's happening here? I was told, and I went to my artist and said, look, we just, Coachella just don't do it. They've just never done it. So don't, it's not even a conversation. But here we are now with the Misfits just slapped in there with all one logo. Imagine it's someone wee sort of party cannon way, just a quirk now, that poster. And then Misfits is one fucking band, almost in small text with a logo. So, brilliant. Brilliant. It doesn't matter. Damnation, Art Tangent, fucking download a Coachella itself, the Bolly Cavilion, man, and
Yeah,
getting your logo in there. So, what do I think about it? Aye, good for the Misfits for being in that position that you can just go, aye, fuck it. As you say, we're not a career band. You want us, that's what we do, and that's what we need.
yeah, absolutely. It was quite nice, just as a little aside, to see Soft Play have made it onto that lineup. I'm not entirely sure if they're blowing up in America and I don't know about it, but
And
that
of
was
course,
quite cool.
James, Kneecap,
Do you know what? I missed it, but yeah,
they're on it too, so there you go. Fucking hell. It's
lovely.
happening. It's happening.
Great. It is. It is happening.
Ron
Um,
Davis.
okay, let's do it. So Ron Davis says, the tribe that has grown up around the festivals and the podcast has really shown how much these things mean to people on an emotional level. From people admitting to anxiety and other personal issues, to the tribute to Craig Smith, to the general sense of belonging. It's clear that your forums mean something to a lot of people. Question is, how has that impacted your own view on what your role is? Does it freak you out, or do you feel more responsibility than you used to? And does any of that affect your choices moving forward? So, I mean, as the king of social media, Gav, I feel like you should probably tackle this one first.
Yeah, I mean, so the phone, I feel like I've discussed this a wee bit or previously, but I'll go over it again just in case. I mean, you've obviously got a lot of people now that are listening to the latest podcast and haven't heard the older ones. The I resented that forum for a long time because it killed off the old style forum, the internet, when it was actually on your website, which I loved. It was my favourite place on the internet. And I don't particularly like social media as a concept. I don't have social. I don't have my own. Gavin McInally doesn't have an Instagram account, or there's no Gavin McInally Twitter account. I'm on Facebook for Damnation, and then the forum, which might surprise some people because I'm so active on the bits of social media that I do enjoy, that it would seem like I'd be posting up pictures of my pets that I don't have on Instagram, but I don't. I only don't go on Instagram because I've got the two promoters, one pod account and the Damnation account. So took me years, absolutely years. That must, I think Graham Smith set it up in like 2014. It was probably like 2018, 2019 before I even gave it any attention. And then from there, when I decided I was going to give it the attention that I give it, I went all in. And it was a very deliberate, don't use the Damnation Festival account. Do it as Gavin McInally. I said to Paul, if we're going to do it as Paul Farrington. Be like, put yourself up there to be held accountable, answer the questions as you, be human about it. Don't come in and be this whole fucking like a bot on through your company account. And it took off, and it's maintained very well. We've got great mods on there, and it has become a proper community. We had like 10,000 users on there, and the mods have been really great at just getting rid of everything that isn't human. Basically, all the bots, any spam accounts, and you see it every now and then. You see it get up to like 8,100, and then you click back in, and it'll be like 7,900 again because the mods have just been absolutely culling off anything that looks like a scam or try to give you Aldi vouchers. So it's kind of cultivated a really good community, and none more so than the hero that you mentioned, Craig Smith, who sadly passed away earlier this year. Uh, he's a he's a shining example of what that community was. He joined, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, and he was your typical social media user. Rather tell you the band he didn't like than the band he does like. You know what I mean? Like the Grindcore was never great after 1982. The latest death metal band was shit. This but the festival was crap. And slowly but surely, just he warmed to the feeling in that community, and then he became an absolute cornerstone of it. And he was the guy who was telling you about the latest Grindcore release and rating it at the weekend, and instead of either mocking or being completely indifferent to an event like an outbreak or Uprising or Bloodstock, he was buying tickets for events that he didn't really even know the lineups of, and that just feeds into a greater sense of community in something like those forums. So you've got a reason to go there because you've got the organizer of the event you're going to answering your questions and giving you the time of day and being held accountable and responsible for the event they put on, which is unusual in itself. And then you've got members like Craig Smith making it a great place to be because there is that positivity running through it. And he was a big loss. And yeah, it was great to be able to put a tribute up to him at the event itself on the screen. And aye, it's it does it. My role, does it freak me out? Does it? I don't. No, no. I think you need to be careful with these things. There's people on there as well that they want you to be whatever their view of what's right is. So you need to go on and be yourself. You can't just become a yes person. You need to have your own voice, and ultimately sometimes that will upset people, or you'll need to defend your fest when sometimes people don't think you've got that right. They're buying a ticket and they can say whatever you like. You need to shut up and put up with it. But my role doesn't freak me out in it. I find the supporting it pretty overwhelming, and I enjoy it, and I enjoy being part of it, and I appreciate having that community. So, aye, well, I kind of lost my way a wee bit. I think about Craig
But
Smith, but
you're yourself more so than anyone else I know that does a similar thing because you I feel like you only say what you believe. You don't edit, you don't really filter yourself. I feel like you're just like how you are with me in the pub or with your family at home is how people see you on on social media and on this podcast. And that's an amazing thing and I think quite rare. I mean, I feel more I'm like slightly more guarded than you are, I think, because I feel kind of scared about being someone who is in some way, without over egging it, in some way in the public eye now, much more so with the podcast than I was previously. Although I was previously a little bit, but this is much more like a every week I speak for 45 minutes on an hour and a half podcast, and people are listening, right? And that's like there's something kind of terrifying about in 2024, not I don't know, maybe not using the modern terminology for something, or speaking in the right way about representations on lineups, or which bands are cancelled and which bands aren't cancelled. And like there's this people desperate for us to answer questions about um separating the art from the artist and cancel culture and stuff. And mate, we've talked about whether or not we should include that on the podcast, and I wonder whether we'll do it in the live show because it feels like a less scary place to be. But all of that kind of scares me a bit because I could lose my career. I'm a very liberal guy. I'm a lefty, but it still feels like a dangerous
yeah,
place.
and I make that's the point. I was being a wee bit more ham-fisted with. Yeah, exactly that. I mean, I'm a liberal guy as well, but again, I was dubbed an overnight Nazi booking one black metal band, so it can turn you very quickly. Which I think this podcast or having a wee bit more about yourself out there, like I mean, at this point, I mean, fuck me, man. If I'm a sexist pig or a racist or fucking I must be the best fucking actor ever because now you've got 100 hours of me sitting in every state for sitting here with the fucking COVID tape being pushed and unedited podcasts. And if I can hide that side of me, and I got too many pals anyway who would call me out for it, online or otherwise. But you need to but you can't go too far in the other direction. This is my point. Like that, like so. Here's the thing that you can get yourself tied up with. Like so, Damnation's a flat, leveled ground venue. That meets all requirements for anybody with mobility issues to get around the venue. We don't need legally to put in those accessibility platforms. The venue covers access to every stage. We do it through choice, right? So you go, oh, good for you, Gav. Good for you, Damnation. But then you have somebody that got in touch with Paul and says, well, I'm more disabled than he is. And Paul said, well, fuck, you can't start going down that route. But then, like, well, at the end of the day, you're getting people there that are taking advantage, and I've got this. And you can't then be on going, you're right as well. because then you're going to hold on a second, we're doing reserve spots for who's got the worst mobility issues. So then, so you need to try and tackle, and that goes for the black metal, for sex, for whatever that cancel culture thing. There's one side, somebody's line here. What's acceptable or your viewpoint's acceptable changes for the next person, even if the two of them think themselves is 100% right. So you need to go on and when you're playing your part in that community, stand your ground a bit as well, and not just be like, right, okay, I can clearly see you have mobility issues, and I'm sure that you do need access to that platform, but that doesn't give you or me the right to go and tell somebody else on that platform to start pulling out certificates or get off. You know what I mean? So that I get where you're coming from. It's difficult ground to fucking to navigate. But at the same time, I feel like once people get to know you, if you're a decent, if you're decent, it shines through, and that does it. And I say that as well. Listen, there's people in that forum who probably don't like me much, and I get that. Sometimes you like you get to see. Sometimes you just get that wee bit and feel like, oh, I'd love to put Gav back in his place, and that's going to be the nature of it. Also, you know what I mean, I'm kind of outspoken guy with a lot of opinions, especially in power metal. So it's. I feel I'm a wee
Okay.
bit. I'm a wee bit misty headed, and I don't know if I'm rambling with this answer or not. I'm just
No, no.
trying to do it justice. But I appreciate and the power of it. The look, people talk about it like when I come doing this thing in Monday and we announce these bands. There is enough people on that forum, even if 2,000 people will come to sell out Damnation in that day. So the power of that forum is an unbelievable marketing tool as well. It's not just me getting charity and goodwill because oh, let's give you my time and explain about how it is to put on a metal festival. It's like that fucking forum supports you, and every single Damnation will be successful for the rest of the time.
Yeah, yeah. And look, I think you proved my point by taking what I'd said and then going and tackling a subject as difficult as accessibility, which is a hot topic, and you're not scared to just go into. And that's great. The honesty is brilliant, and I think people massively appreciate that. And it's something that other event organizers, including myself, could learn from, I think. But I'm more scared than you are.
Yeah, I
Although
mean,
I'm very honest on this podcast, I don't mind upsetting booking agents. The people I don't want to upset is our audience.
no, of course,
Um,
of course
and
not.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one.
It is an interesting one. I'm going to attempt this next question all in one go, okay? Adam
Okay.
Roberts Shaw. It's getting close to that time of the year when music publications put out their albums of the year lists out. First, how much of an influence, if any, do those lists have on the booking of your festivals? And second, how are the both for your personal lists looking? James, you must have been tingling, mate. Tingling when this fucking question came up. Now, we're going to do so don't give me a here's the top 10 right now and a
I'm
review.
not gonna. I'm not gonna.
Right,
I only
okay.
put this in to make sure that we did do one. We did do an episode. um, I have, as I've said before, I've been reading Kerrang since I was 12, and I've been reading Metal Hammer for fucking tens of years. And these album of the year lists, before I kind of peeked behind the curtain of the music industry and was a fan, these album of the year lists were like fundamental to my music taste. I would like pore over the Kerrang and Metal Hammer ones every year to be like, oh, I missed that record, I missed that record. I need to check out that band. And and mostly those lists are voted for by music fans like ourselves. The journalists we know, like Nick and Sam from Kerrang, fucking awesome guys who love music. Um, and I want to know who their favorite albums of the year are. Now there's in probably in both those magazines, there's definitely going to be a little bit of like, let's get Fall Out Boy at the top, let's get Iron Maiden at the top. And there has to be some commerciality to their lists where they're appealing to a wide audience and also the bands that are spending, no doubt, a shitload of money in advertising at Metal Hammer and Crank. But those lists are fucking great, and I've always followed them. I really enjoy the That's Not Metal album of the year list, and RIP Riot Act, who used to do a brilliant one on their podcast. So I'm like desperate for us to do it, but also quite nervous because you're a journalist, but you're not a music journalist, and I am neither, right? So I'm like not anything to do with journalism, and the depth. Like I listened to That's Not Metal review the Aranzi Pazuzu album the other day, which I love. And I was like, fuck me, there's no way in a million years I could have done a review this good. I can't eloquently describe what I'm hearing in the way they can. So we'll leave that with them. But we're going to do a top 10 our top 10. It's not going to be a like, I'm not going to try and appeal to certain groups of fans. Like maybe it's going to be my favorite 10 albums of the year.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a bit about probably some gigs and a couple of other things for the end of the year lists. So I think we're going to do it. And I'm excited about that. And that's going to get more prep from me than,
Than
than any
anything
podcast we've
ever.
ever done.
All the book clubs are going to come into that one.
Do
Yeah.
you, do you reckon there'll be any overlap between our top tens? I'm going to
Yes.
go, you do. Okay.
I would go. I would go with at least three records from our top tens will overlap.
Okay.
I totally agree, and also I think that's a novelty value. I think that I always said when I done Damnation Versus, if you want to hear an in-depth interview with a music artist about pedals and song structures and the meaning behind the albums and their upbringing and how that came, and you want to get and dive deep into why Not Loose sound like they are not loose, then read Kerrang and Metal Hammer and Terrorizer and go to podcasts that specialise in that. If you want to know how Not Loose feel about their fee for playing Glastonbury and how they came to get a booking agent and what they do in their tour bus and that, and the actual, the more tangible day-to-day dynamics and the mechanics of it, then Damnation Versus with it. And that's what this podcast is. For us two to sit here and start try to get long-winded about the drum sound and how the snare changed because the engineer like nonsense. It's not that like we would be nonsense at it. It's just I don't know any like I'm still pretty I don't know fucking anything about music. Honestly, I'm listening to like I still like oh, the big hook and I'm like what big fucking hook? And I'm never getting no idea. I just like I enjoy music. So when we're doing on the records or band bookings or describe music, we're just doing it in an honest fashion of like this is how it makes me feel. This is what I feel it sounds like and why I think you should listen to it. So I am looking forward to it. Can I give five of like the going to be in the mix at this current point? Is that allowed?
Yeah.
Right. Five that I think will make the cut by the time the final tenor will be the albums by Julie Christmas, Thou, Crippling Alcoholism, Knocked Loose, and Kneecap.
Almost certainly none of those will make my top 10.
Oh, I tell you what, you've done fucking well. If you've been the whole year and you've heard 10 records better than Julie Christmas. Oh, oof. Looking forward to it, son. Looking for
It's yeah, it'd be good to. Well, I've started getting mine together, and the only way I know how to do that is to go back and listen to probably my favorite 20 albums and work out which are the best 10. And I started this week. No, I'm not going to tell you what. I'm not
no,
going to give
not
you
not
I'm not
keep
going to give
it
you a hint.
keep it all up your sleeve, big man. Keep it all up your sleeve.
Just to finally answer one last bit of the question, you know, do these album of the year lists affect our bookings? Well, in terms of other people's, yeah, a little bit. I will definitely once the Metal Hammer, Kerrang, and That's Not Metal ones are out over the next couple of weeks, I will definitely pick up a couple of bands that I've missed, and they might end up on my lineup this year or the year after. So yeah, it's going to influence me a little
I
bit.
suppose that might be the way I'm forever telling agents when they tell me that, oh, Krang's album of the year list, I don't give a shit. No one cares. Metal Hammer's like me. I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't sell Damnation an extra fucking single ticket. It's great for the band. It's a great bit, a great bit extra promo. I hope that more people go and listen to it, but don't try to add £500 to the fee because Krang made it the album of the year because I'm not fucking buying it. So, aye. But I might, like yourself, if I see it, I'm like, oh, that's a band I hear get mentioned left, right, and centre, and I've not actually went and just checked it out myself. That day I might check it out, and that might be the reason they get booked for Damnation. But
Yeah.
no, not because they were on a list.
Okay, good.
Everyone, their Damnation app that we've got through Meloria will get their band announcement on Monday to their phone. Do you know why that is, James? Because we've got an app. Right?
We
And that's
do.
what we'll do. We'll send a button and I'll go ping. And then that will be your reminder to go and buy your goddamn ticket if you don't already have it. If you would also like an app to send out these type of notifications to your fan base, then Meloria, Mleiora.events is the place. Darren is your man. The app is slick as. Even James likes it and he's a technophobe. It's all good. Get involved.
True. I am a technophobe and I do like it. So yeah, please get involved. Okay, so Today, Gav, we're going to talk about a bit of a nerdy topic, I think. So, if you remember last week, we had a question from Fritz Ragvold Rimala Pettersson. I think I did a better job of his name last week. He had a question about promoting and how, um, what promoting we've done, and we answered it a little bit. And then you kind of said, well, you wanted to get into a bit more detail, get into the the nuts and bolts of the sort of technicalities of it, and specifically the differences between how festival stuff is done and versus touring shows, so local and national touring. So I did feel like we should start this by talking to our listeners that are not in the music industry and just reminding them how the people, the four main people in the live music industry, who are the promoter, which is us. That is the person putting on the show. That is the person responsible for selling the tickets and taking all the risk. That they will talk to the booking agent who is working for the artist and the artist manager. And the booking agent's only job is to book that artist's shows, festival shows, touring shows, right? To negotiate a decent fee for that artist. Yeah. And then the artist and the manager do a bunch of other stuff which we're not interested in today, which is, record deals and publishing deals and all that good stuff. And then there's someone called a tour manager who is not to be confused with the artist manager. The tour manager is responsible for running a smooth tour, getting everyone from A to B, collecting the money, etc. So um, that's it. Now, sorry for those of you that are in the music industry, but people get very confused about these things. So now, because we're now going to talk about how a deal is done.
Yeah, and it,
Uh,
and it's a wee disclaimer for us at the start. We're two festival promoters. That is our both full-time jobs. We are festival promoters. I have experience promoting local shows in Glasgow. I have put on the likes of Electric Wizard, Cataluna, Napalm Death, Watain, Cataclysm, Agalock, Pelican, Alcest, Anunnarthrak, and the most recently I done a bizarre show for Eternal Champion when the whole Manifest thing collapsed. But other than that show, I haven't done local promoting in, I don't know, maybe 5 years. And we can get into the reasons behind that in the conversation. So if you are a local promoter and they are very different jobs, which we can get into, we're not trying to explain. We're not promote explaining to you guys about how to do it. We're just giving our side. That James, you are more involved in local promoting because you do it like your Kneecap gig last week, but you do have Miles there who you've said before does a lot of that background stuff.
yeah, he's really doing everything. He's doing the fee and the deal negotiation. He's doing the venue booking and availability. He's doing, riders, production, sales and marketing, guest list, the lot, everything that goes into putting on the show. I'm turning up to Kneecap going, which fridge did you say the beers were in, Mars? But the fact that Kneecap are part of you know, our roster of artists in Bristol is because of the work I've done with the band over the years and done with that booking agent. And that's where my sort of expertise comes in, is that I have good contacts with booking agents and I'm able to, be the promoter for Code and Cambria and Thrice and um, Bob Villan and Kneecap and all
Yeah,
those
you've got
others.
history
So
there because that's the thing is well, you can't just like you wake up tomorrow in Bristol and even if you've got a big wad of cash, you can't just take that Bob Dylan or Kneecap show. I mean, you shouldn't be able to, but you're not. That's the whole point of it is you have a touring history, you have that. So let's start right back at the very start point of the difference where the process of the booking starts from a festival promoter to a local promoter. From my point of view, as a festival, you're approaching the band 99 times out of 100, you've got an event happening in Manchester at Beck Arena on the 2nd of November, and you've got 3 stages to fill, and your approach, you say, I want Napalm Death, and I go and contact Napalm Death's agent and say, are they available? What can we do? And then that can start a whole conversation of, no, they're not available, it needs to be more money, you can do this, we have to cancel that, that's going to change. That's very different from what usually happens in local promoting is you're offered like Napalm Death will be on tour March 2025. Do you have any availability in Bristol? If so, where is it? What's your best offer?
yeah, and there's And there are sometimes you'll be getting approached with a load of other promoters. So you're kind of competing with each other over those shows. And it
Yes.
might, there's two types of promoter. There's a local promoter and a national promoter. So like a national like Live Nation or Kilimanjaro or DHP, they might do the whole tour. They might do London, Manchester, Bristol, Glasgow. Whereas for me, I'm just usually just doing Bristol, sometimes London, but usually just Bristol. So sometimes you're just in a like a mailing list of like, come on, compete for this show. Or in the case of let's say Kneecap, I've done the last two Kneecap shows. The agent is just coming straight to us and going, right, let's talk about where Kneecap should play next and what the offer should be, what the fee should be on that.
Yeah, well,
So
that's good to know because that's another thing. You know, I was speaking to some promoters that we are friendly with, and there is situations where you are the current promoter and you have done a good job of the last Sleep Token, Kneecap, Bob Villain show, whatever it is. But ultimately, they will accept. I mean, if another established promoter or if a Live Nation or Kilimanjaro, whoever, are going to pay more to get them in the city next time, basically they might give you first refusal, but you better get to 40 grand if you want it. Are you saying with yourself and Miles? There's been a lot of occasions where you've actually got it's only you the agents came to.
yeah, and all promoters will get that where you get a situation where the band is yours in a certain city or territory, and you just keep getting the band. That is not to say that there aren't other people trying to steal the band, and the bands do get stolen. So there is loads of bands who I won't name that we have lost, mostly to Live Nation over the years, where the band might get bigger than there is. Once you get to arenas, there isn't an arena in Bristol, so you
Yeah,
might lose the band for that reason. Um, Loyalty is a very loose concept in the music industry, and sometimes you get it and sometimes you don't. And it warms your heart when you do, and when you don't, it's like a horrible, horrible place to be. But I think if you do a good job and the band are making money and the band are selling a lot of tickets, then there's no reason to not use a local promoter. And I always say to agents, no one knows the Bristol alternative like heavy music scene better than me and Miles. They just don't. No one does. You're going to use a promoter that's got an office in London. Why?
yeah.
Doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah,
It's
and
bonkers.
I've had that loyalty thing explained to me as well from higher up the food chain, like your Live Nation and Kilimanjaro. It's like sometimes you get a band who are pretty big and they just change managers in New York, and the guy just goes, "I want this done for the UK, and I don't want to hear anything about it." Like, oh, by the way, that promoter in Glasgow's actually brought this band up for 50 tickets to audio to the Hydro, and he's like, I don't care. I literally do not care. It's one of my 7 bands that I manage. I just want this done. Live Nation or a Kilimanjaro, whatever. We'll just get it done under one umbrella. No other voices to hear, no other emails to come for. And then next thing you know, this band too. Because let's face it, the bands at that point as well, they need to get professional enough that they can't be like, oh, let's have this personal attachment to these people who have been there for them at the start. It's a pretty cutthroat business, and I've seen it. And I've spoken to promoters that have lost bands that they've worked up through the venues with, and then I've been like, it's not even a case of Live Nation have been the stereotypical or just come in and like vultures and just taking this band when they finally got to 3,000, 4,000 cap rooms. It was something else changed that no one else had any insight of in America. And the manager just wanted a quick and easy solution, and Live Nation were that quick and easy solution. What are Live Nation going to say? No, we're not taking that because I want promoter X in Manchester to keep the loyalty. No, that's not going to happen either. It is a business.
Yeah, but it's up to the artists and managers. But we all have to go to bed at night and decide on whether or not we're happy with how we've conducted ourselves in our business dealings. And like, there's two examples this year. I've got bands to reform in the last two examples in the last 2 years where I've got bands to reform for Trees or ATG, and I've said to them, I would like to do your warm-up shows or your tour around that. And they've said to me, look, we've been, okay, we'll cut you in 50-50 with this promoter because let's call him Bob, because Bob in London has been doing the band since 2009. And I'm like, oh, sorry, wait a minute, that's fine. Bob's been doing them since 2009. I don't want half of Bob's. I don't
Good
want
for
half of
good
that.
for
I don't want
Bob.
half of that. Fucking give it to Bob. But it's. I'm not trying to throw my weight around in that way with little indie promoters. That Bob can keep Bob's work. Whereas once you get to a bigger level and you're dealing with the national promoters, then it's a shark pool, and that's why I kind of prefer Bristol than messing about too much in London. Um, so if we just talk about fees, should we talk about fees?
Yes.
So obviously with a festival, I mean, you've kind of hinted there's this one band, I don't think we've named them, but you've hinted that there was a band that we were both after this year. And your top was 7.5, and I paid 15 for it, and you wouldn't go over 7,500,
Yep.
and I paid 15,000. And the reality is, you don't know if they're worth 7.5 any more than I know if they're worth 15,
Yep.
because what is any band worth to a festival? And like we talked a bit about how I'm like in a non-pretentious way curating a lineup. I don't mean I'm like an artiste, but I
Yep.
know you hate that, Gav. I sit staring out my window, stroking my beard, thinking about my lineup.
Your
But
masterpiece.
but when you're putting together a group of bands, some would call curating, it it's about the whole, particularly at a festival like Arctangent. It's the whole thing fitting together. So whether or not that band's worth that money is
Yeah,
a
I mean,
moot
and I'm
point, really,
not
if
going
you're
to sit
spending
here
hundreds of
and
thousands.
stamp my feet a bit, but oh, James, like as if I haven't done it. I mean, like Julie Christmas was you're paying good money for Julie Christmas at the time that you have got nothing else to go on. So you know what you're doing. The difference between local promoting and festival promoting is local promoting gives you an exact bottom line of is that band worth that fee? You get it in black and white. That never happens at a festival. You might sell your festival out. You might lose a shit ton of your festival. But maybe the band halfway up your main stage who you got for a couple of grand actually attracted 10 times the worth in ticket sales and your headline band shat the bed, or vice versa. It's like you don't get a breakdown of it with your festival. It's all a bit of guesswork. Now at local level, that is not when you're putting that you get that gig in the fleece. You and Miles walk out and you've got an exacta. We paid that. That's what it generated. That was that band, and you can use that even to go into your festival. But it still doesn't give you a precise. Is it worth that for the festival in terms of fees? I mean, how wild are the difference, James? Because that's another thing. A touring fee. You play Manchester and you're just going into Rebellion, or you play Manchester, you go into Damnation. It's they can be wild. It can be twice, three times. Sometimes agents come for four times the fee from doing that same date in the city. And this isn't a fly-in. This isn't like all the bit where you need to add in the hotels or the fact that they're giving up 3 days work. This is even as part of a tour. If you get a band that's playing a festival, the fee is unbelievably all over the place.
Yeah, and this actually annoys me. So if a band is going to tour around a festival date, I always feel like the festival date should just be considered part of the tour, and the fees are comparable, like they're basically the same. Whereas what you're saying is you'll pay 2 to 3 times more probably for the festival, even though they come to London, then Glasgow, and then they stop at Damnation the next day, and you're paying 3 times more than London did. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
Um,
And these
and
ones,
that is annoying.
they're not even anchored round your foot. Sometimes you're just part of the tour. It's like you've no set it up. It's not one of these ones. There's the odd occasions where a package or something is offered to you because you conveniently land in the routing. So they're a bit like, oh, we're going to be in the UK over that week. Can we do Manchester on your 6,000 capacity stage instead of the 600 capacity? You say, are you okay? And
Yeah.
I'll phone and I'll promote. So how much for that headline band? 2.5. Right, okay. And I'll go, I'll know that the band will never do it for 2.5 for Damnation. So I'll say 3.5. And they're like, oh, we need 6. And I'm like, why do you need 6? I mean, you're playing Bristol the night before for 2.5. You're doing Glasgow for 3. You're doing Dublin for 2.5. Why do you need 6 at Damnation? It's a festival fee. We don't get anything less than that festival fee anywhere in Europe. Like, I know, but that's somebody phoning you up and saying, any chance I can have your band to play? And you say, we need €6,000. It's like, I get that, but
Yeah.
you're part of this too. Why does it need to be 6? And they're like, because that's just the way that it is. The only two small things that are not even applicable largely are the 80-20 split, which we can get into in a bit, And the fact that they'll need to make some sort of compromise. They won't get a 2 hour sound check. It won't be there. And the bands will be like, we want to be compensated because we don't get everything our own way. And thirdly, might be the merch concession. So with Damnation, a bit like the merch concession doesn't is not applicable. Never taken into account ever. The 80-20 split and a lot of these ones non-applicable either if you're a band. They're probably not going to sell at that venue anyway. And ultimately, I would say that playing to the 6,000 people, even if you having to shave 50 minutes of your set and not getting a sound check, is still beneficial rather than doing everything and going and playing Rebellion.
Yeah, and for people that are trying to follow this, if you think about it, if a band tours in the summer, just a festival tour, they might only be able to play 3 or 4 days a week at festivals, and they'll have a lot of days off, and there's huge distances to travel. So in those situations, you can see why a festival fee might cost the band a lot more to play festivals. Where what we're talking about is a band is on tour around your festival date, and you are just another date on the tour, and it doesn't feel like you should be paying more than the other tour days. I mean, and as a rule of thumb, I always think that at a festival you're going to pay 2 to 3 times more than the band is worth in the closest city to you, which is
I mean,
always feels like.
absolutely. But also, what you must have some situations where you're looking at saying you must have paid five, six, 7 times more.
Yeah, well, it all comes down to how much you want the band sometimes, doesn't it? And how much you want it to happen. And I've given up trying to work out how agents are fucking doing these calculations. And if you really want the band, you sometimes get a sense of the fact that the agent or the band is basically saying, well, we're just not interested until the money is here. So you have a choice. You get the money there or you don't get the money there.
So I
Now,
mean, because those conversations must happen pretty yearly. Where you must be a case of okay, booked band X to headline Art Tangent or Trees cost me anywhere I don't know about 60 to 100 grand, right? And then I've got that band playing in Bristol. Miles comes back and says 15, and you went, did you just process that? It's just been completely normal now. Like that's fine. That a band that costs 15 might cost you 70.
well, well, there's a lot of factors involved, aren't there? It's really complicated. So it might be that a band has decided that in any given period that they tour in, they need to earn X amount of pounds. Otherwise, the older bands are often like this. Unless they can clear 100 grand by the end of the tour, then it's not fucking leaving the house, right?
Yeah,
So then it kind of depends, doesn't it? They could do a week's touring around the UK, or they could just do one festival show. And then you are in some way trying to, at times, with your headliners in particular, you're trying to fill their coffers because otherwise they don't want to tour above that. It's not about how much it costs them. It's not about that. It's about do they want to do X on Fire, Taking Back Sunday, Coed and Cambria, Meshuggah, Opeth, Devon Townsend, do they want to leave the house to go and play a show? To Carnival want to come to Europe for one fucking show in a field, in a very, very, very muddy field in the Mendips. You know, I mean, the agent literally said to me, there is a number here which is going to make them want to get on a plane. It's not a day, it's a
yeah,
fucking 24-hour flight
yeah. No, I get that. I
with
get
jet
that.
lag and then 2 hours on stage. What do you think it makes them want to do that? So
Yeah, I mean,
so
I get
it's
that, and
complicated.
believe me, like nails or bleeding through a show back up in the UK in 2025, 2026 in a full UK tour, and I find out the fee is 8 times smaller than it was for them to take the stage of Damnation. I will fully accept that and understand it. I mean, you're asking people. I mean, it's doing that like that 2 or 3 days into it by the time your travel day, then the day at Damnation, travel day back to America for God knows how many people. That's not the same as touring. I mean, I made the joke earlier when I came on about having a fever dream with Thou, but that's an amazing point. I mean, like, I don't know how many dates that they're doing in these 180 cap rooms in the UK before around about Roadburn. But if they do them for if they did them for 2 weeks, their offer probably still be less than what it would make in one show at Damnation, like one appearance at Damnation. So it's a bit like it's the reason, it's the rationale behind it, which you don't get told either. That's another thing that no matter whether you're local promoter or the festival promoter, you don't actually get you don't get clued in and what the band want. That's a conversation between the band and management that maybe gets to the booking agent, and the booking agent just comes with this is the instructions of what we're going to need to make happen, or the number they're going to need to hit. But you're sitting there if you're trying to book the Thou for 15 years and the offers just keep going up and up and up, and then they are playing to 100 people in Nottingham. It doesn't. I mean, you just like they could tour for 2 weeks and still not take the same fee. So that's an odd one as well. When you're sitting going like, how did we get to that bit with the fee in terms of how it got there?
Yeah, I mean that is frustrating with specifically the thou example. So okay, so look, if we go back a stage, we've kind of talked about how we get festival fees, which is random. But if we talk about show fees, there's the things you need to know are what will your income be, right? Which is pretty simple. The venue is 400 people, and this is the ticket price. And therefore, that if it sells out, that's the maximum income you can make, right? There are no other income streams for a promoter, really. That's your income, and then you need to know how much what the cost's going to be for that. So how much we spend on venue hire, rider, extra production in terms of lighting and other types of production. PRS, we're not going to get into PRS now, maybe another day. And how much will the supports cost? How much sales and marketing will there be? So, social media advertising, posters, people still do posters and flyers. So there's all these costs. So it's basically like, oh, here's your income minus all your costs gives you a profit, right? We all know that. That's how businesses run. So until you kind of know what the that amount you have left is, you've no way of gauging what you should pay the artist, right? You can't until you've somehow calculated that, you can't work out an artist fee. Now, once you have calculated your income and expenditure, and obviously if you are a promoter like Live Nation or Miles, you've got that at the tips of your fingers, right? Because you know all the costs. You can calculate the cost very accurately because you do this every week. Your income is part research and part promoter's intuition. Will Sleep Tokens sell out the O2 Arena? Will they sell out three O2 arenas? Which size venue should Iron Maiden play in Birmingham? Will they sell it out? Kneecap. What size room are we going to put them in Bristol? We sold out 1,400 this time. Where's the next venue? That is your sort of promoter's intuition, and there's a bit of research. How many tickets are you going to sell?
Yeah.
Is the ultimate thing. And then you come down to this thing. You keep mentioning a versus deal, right? So let's talk about this. So we're gonna get slightly techie. So if everyone imagines they've gone back to school for a second and like take a deep breath. So basically a versus deal is this. The artist will get offered, let's say, £4,000 versus 80%. Right. Now what that means is the minimum the artist could ever get paid is going to be 4 grand for that night.
If no tickets are sold, the
Yeah, if no
artist
one
gets
comes.
4 grand.
Yeah. So if nothing, so anything bad happens, no tickets or poor tickets or a loss or whatever, the artist is guaranteed 4 grand. But if it goes well, they can get 80% of the profit. So if it's higher than the 4 grand, if 80% of profit is higher than 4 grand, then they'll get that. So I've got you some numbers here, just two numbers. Don't switch off. My mum told me you got a bit techie on that Andy Farrow episode. I stopped listening. Stick with me, mum. Come on. So if the show profit is, so we've got a guarantee of 4 grand. If the show profit is 6 grand, 80% of six is 4.8. So the artist will walk away with £4,800 because it's higher than 4 grand. If the show profit is 4.5 grand, 80% of that is 3,600, which is less than four. So they'll get the four, right? So if you make this really simple, and this it's not quite this simple, but if the show goes really well, let's say it sells out, the promoter will get 20% of the profit, the artist will get 80% of the profit. Whatever is left at the end of the night, the artist takes 80%, the promoter takes 20%. That all feels fine, right? As a promoter, I'm quite happy with that when it goes well. But if it goes badly, let's just go for the extreme example of no one turns up. The promoter will still have to pay £4,000 to the artist. They will have to pay the venue hire, the PRS, the rider, the sales and marketing, etc., etc., etc. So the promoter on any given day takes a massive risk. No one outside of the music industry knows about this, right? So just try and get your head around it. It's quite fascinating that all the shows you go to, anything anything other than a very small show, all of them, Cult of Luna, Sleep Token, Metallica, Meshuggah, they're all, Don Broco, all the shows are done like this. It's a versus deal, a guaranteed fee versus, well, what 80% or even sometimes 85% or even sometimes 90%. So the artist takes a bigger chunk. Like an arena show, maybe the artist will get 90% and the promoter will get 10%. So it's quite fascinating that basically whenever things go wrong, the promoter is the one that takes the hit.
Always. And you start that, everyone gets paid. See the people that provide the mojo barrier, they get paid. See the security guy, he gets paid. The band are going to be paid. The agent gets paid. The manager gets paid. The only person that starts that process at the start with zero income and will not get a single penny unless all goes well is the promoter. So what I always found pretty offensive about the 80-20 splits was, aye, exactly that. That everything always needs to go well. And speak to any promoter. It's like I'm sure it's great. I spoke to somebody to get some idea. Felt like I sold at Barrowlands, right? You sell out. I've sold at Barrowlands. An absolute cracking show, done a great thing. What's that? What does the promoter get? You know, somewhere maybe between 3 to 5. An absolute highlight 5, but usually about 3 or 4. Like you sell out the Barrowlands and you get 3 to 4 grand. And how many shows do you put on that you don't sell out the Barrowlands? Fucking most of them. You know what I mean? Like, how is that? And then you're looking at Damnation, there is no split at a festival. There is no 80-20. You go to a band, even if they've inflated fees, they say, this is what we want. And if you sell out your entire festival and the profit margins in the hundreds of thousands of pounds, there is not one more penny to go to the band. The band's guarantee is that, and it stops there. So you're a bit like, when you set out, it's still a gamble. All promote a fucking bit of a gamble, but at least you know that when things go really well, your hard work is paid off for you. And you might be like, well, you know what, if you've done these shows and you had 5 a week and they were on the Barrowlands or above and you were getting that money, that's a good salary. And I'm sure it is for promoters that are doing it. But in my experience, there is a lot of shows that just shit the bed. And that possible 3-4 grand profit you made suddenly becomes a 15 grand loss. So then you need another 10 sold out shows to cover the loss of the one that just the agent told you this band were definitely going to be the next big thing, and they didn't. And
Yeah.
they done 800 tickets instead of 1,800 tickets, and you're the one carrying the can.
Of course, the number one important skill to being a touring promoter, a promoter of tour shows, is to be able to calculate what that number is that you're going to sell. Because once you know how many tickets you're going to sell, if you can guess that accurately, like this band will sell about 350 tickets in Bristol. Once you can guess that accurately, you can make your offer so that you're taking your risk out of it a bit. If you keep getting that number wrong and you're over offering, and Mars is brilliant at getting these offers in the right ballpark. It's so important because if you get them in the right ballpark, then you can make money. Otherwise, you're just making losses on shows. And you know, well, it's not a business if you're making losses
It's a
regularly,
charity.
is it? And the other thing that we should quickly touch on is that you have to speculate to accumulate a little bit in this world as well. Because why do you think, you know, the first time I promoted Kneecap or me and Mars promoted Kneecap was in a 280 cap exchange at Bristol. Um, and they're now doing 1,400 and it'll be God knows what next time. The first time I promoted most of the bands like Bob Vylan and stuff that we do will be in 100, 200 cap rooms, right? Some of those shows you just got to make a loss on because no one's heard of the band yet. And that's easy to do if you're Live Nation, or easier to do if you're Live Nation, to be like, you've got to speculate on a lot of bands until you get the next Radiohead or the next Sleep Token. It's harder if you're a small promoter to be
Yeah.
just chucking a few hundred quid a
I
night
mean,
at these
try and
just
wrap
new
your head
bands that
around
no one's heard of.
try and wrap your head around that as well. And the agents know that when they come to you, and sometimes a wee bit of an abuse of relationship and power. They call them baby bands in the industry, and it's like you take this package for me because you're doing me a solid, and I need. I was at a show once, and this band, and I had no idea why this band was playing in the Cat House, which would have cost its. I mean, it wouldn't be a cheap venue to start with. I think it's like 300 odd capacity. If I thought about it, I thought the band would have about 80 tickets. They'd done about 80 tickets. And I'm like to the promoter, this was years ago too, and I was like, why on earth? Why on earth? Who put a hand up and take this offer? And he says, oh, well, you kind of have to because this is the guy that gives us, and then rhymed off 3 or 4 bands that are playing SECC or Hydro. And you're like, that's in your business plan now. You're like, you basically just need to accept losses on shows to keep the line. And then I mean, no one's considering the loss you accepted on that band when it comes to your 80-20 split or your 90-10 split
No.
the next time you get into an arena. And I was just like, that. It was at that point where I was like, it's not for me. Local promoter, it's not for me. I like to be invested in it in the same way that and on the manager or agent, you're a bit like, right, we're on this together, let's go. And I get it. If you do have a sleep token, you're probably like, great, I'm glad we did take the chances at the start. But for every sleep token, there's another 50 that are not sleep token. Aye, just trying to scrimp and buy with some shows that make some money to cover the ones that lose. And it just seemed like, for what I mean, I'm not saying to end it at festival promoting's easy. I mean, that's obviously its own gamble with hundreds of thousands at stake, but it's at least it's your gamble, and no one's coming with percentages at the other side of it. When it all goes well, when the shit hits the fan, it's all your shit, and when it all goes well, it's all your gravy. So, that's when I decided at that point, like, I am not. I'm probably not enthused about this idea of the local promoting. And there is another sinister side of it, like that cost of it you're talking about. The rider you mentioned. Now, the festival riders are always the most opulent one because the band's get nothing to gain from saving any money in a festival rider. Once a band knows that their show's sold out and there's an 80-20 split there, if they ask for a £20 bottle of vodka, 80% of them's coming from their pocket. The promoter's only paying 20% to the vodka. So then suddenly you see your riders getting stripped back because they're a bit like, well, why would we spend £1,000 on a rider when £800 of that would be money that'll be in our back end? We'll get it the other side.
Well, let's just pause a second. If you understood what Gav just said there, you're allowed to graduate to the next class because that's quite an important point. It's worth just repeating. Because the band are getting 80% of the profit, which has got the costs already in there, if the rider goes up, the costs go up, and therefore the band is actually paying for 80% of the rider cost.
Yes,
I mean, I've
yes.
just said what you said again.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but Phil, thank you. But the sad part of that, and this was explained to me by a tour manager, is when the band know that the show's flopped and the promoter's going to take a loss in it, the big boy rider stays because they're a bit like, well, almost like in a sort of sad way, like just milk it for everything it's worth. So just get the extra vodka, and then we like, and that's the truth of the matter because it's not a tour manager's job to protect the promoter or the relationship. And the tour manager's job is to make sure the band have the best tour, smooth as possible with everything that they're singing and singing their praises and the way out. So that's quite a sinister side to it as well. That you're a bit
Yeah.
like ultimately no one's out to protect the promoter when you get told the promise at start, Gavin, I swear to you, make a big offer for this band. They are going to be huge. They will sell this, but like this venue will be sold out in 2 months. I swear to you, right? 600 tickets sell instead of 1,000. The agent never comes back and goes, oh, by the way, I got that wrong. They don't even admit it. They just, you ever see an agent that tells you something to your face that it's going to be a screaming success, and then you see them next time, they move on to whatever the next thing is. They don't even acknowledge it.
It was
And
your fault for shit sales and marketing, wasn't it?
it's your fault. The whole tour absolutely shat the bed. But it's your fault in Glasgow that it never. This is you're like right, and then you've got a tour manager showing up, ripping you off for the rider, the band acting like, well, you know what, it's not their fault that nobody showed up, and it's just I don't know something about. I mean, I've obviously done that in festival promoting. I have failed at a festival financially and be like, okay, I accept that, but there's just something a bit more sinister when you're not failing together. I mean, everyone else
Yeah.
has still got their hands in their pockets when you've all signed up together for this big success story, and now it's not a success story, and it's all your fault.
Yeah, it's a pretty It's a pretty tough old world out there, I think, with that. Do you know Fritz asked a second part to his question that I thought we could just quickly cover.
Okay.
Um, is what is the relationship between the festivals and local year-round promoters and venues like? In what way would you say you find synergies or competition with these actors? And how does this, if at all, play into the festivals? I mean, obviously, I've got the synergies that I use myself to be the promoter in the Southwest, but um, and I've really used that to my advantage with like let's say Chat Pile. I flew them in for their first ever UK shows. Me and Mars we promoted the London show, and then on the next tour we did London and Bristol, and on the following tour we'll keep doing London and Bristol. But with other promoters, there is definitely a conflict because if you think about it, and there is a promoter in Bristol that said this to me once. He's like, every band I tried to book in the summer, you've got on an exclusive. And I'm like, well, it's not really that. It's that if a band comes in to play 2000 Trees and I'm not paying them enough to make it financially viable, and they say we want to do some other shows, and I'm like, okay, but there has to be a radius clause around 2000 Trees. And my biggest concern is you doing shows in Bristol. So Bristol will always be the market that you can't play in. You can go and do a Glasgow show. In fact, bands often play Glasgow and then 2000 Trees because they're
Yeah.
nice and far apart. I usually, depending on the size of the act, you might allow London, Manchester, and anywhere further north of Manchester, but anywhere closer like Birmingham and Bristol, there is definitely a conflict, and I'm like excluding those sometimes indie promoters out of it. But it's quite a it's
That,
quite a
that,
tough
that
thing to
makes no
resolve
sense.
that.
It makes no sense for your festival. It makes no sense for the band. I mean, why come in and you're going to do two dates in the UK and you're going to do Manchester and Leeds? It's like, go do London, do Glasgow, get across the island if you can. It's like that is I get what you mean. I don't have any. I found that weird because obviously I came into this a wee bit like a naive wrecking ball at 23 because I had no background in the industry, didn't know anybody for the industry. So when I came in, I just thought innocently like, oh, let's just get involved. And it was only afterwards that I learned about whole like booking entombed in Manchester should be the job of the person who always booked entombed in Manchester. But I'd never considered it before. Festivals are a bypass of that. I mean, if you were to come into this now, even again with a lot of money, even experience, you're just not going to go and snap up Metallica, Sleep Token, Kneecap, and everyone in between and be like, oh, I'm just going to do these bands. Because there's a history there. And there is as loosely based and as shanty as it can be at times, there is some sort of loyalty involved in this industry, the people who have done it right. But festivals allow you to bypass it. You come in with a few million quid and just slap bang a festival in the middle of England and say you want to book Sleep Token, Metallica, Kneecap, then that just bypasses the local touring or the national touring side of it. So I've not really butted heads ever with promoters in Leeds or Manchester, to be honest. It's always been. I've not had much. I mean, Cam is the guy from, and he comes to Damnation every year, and I've got a great relationship with him. So there's never been a case that if you're giving it, it's just so different. It's not like somebody's looking at it and going, "Oh, if Manchester, if Damnation wasn't there, I would have that nail show." That nail show would never existed. It only existed because
Yeah.
we flew them in, or bleeding through, or I mean, maybe Cradle of Filth. If you're about like, oh, I was desperate to get the Manchester show, we became the Manchester show for Cradle of Filth. But there's no like anybody sitting there going, oh, they're stealing food off our table kind of thing. So
I bet there is a promoter or promoters of metal in Manchester that sometimes do look at that and go, "Oh yeah, Cradle of Filth, that would have been a nice show to have." When you get the tour, when you got
aye,
the was it Paul Bearer and Elder you did?
yeah,
You
that's right.
know,
Aye, the
you
decapitated
know,
thing. Aye,
yeah.
possibly. There you go again. 20 years in, and I'm still not even thinking about it like that. So, I hope that done a bit of justice there. There is a wee bit more to be said. We've run out of time a wee bit, but there's a bit more to say about supports and billing and packages. You don't have any say. You don't have any say in it. You just get presented at different for being obviously in the festival. You create a book bands, you create it, and that's the way we want to put our lineups together. You get a package. You might book a band, Coheed and Cambria, and absolutely hate both the sports, but you're just getting
Yeah.
them, and that's the end of it.
I
Whereas
mean,
that's never going to happen at your festival.
no, and we are running out of time. So what I'd recommend people do is, firstly, if there's anything that didn't make sense, go to our question thread in the pod group and ask us a question about it. If there's anything we haven't covered that you'd like us to cover, ask us a question. because that could have we could have done double the amount of time there. There's loads of stuff we didn't cover. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
give us a shout.
I'm putting a disclaimer. I'm having this conversation here. I'm dreading listening to this back because I feel completely misty. I feel like I don't remember what we spoke about 5 minutes ago. I'm just like everything feels like this effort to get a convert like a full stop at the end of the sentence. So if it's this one's a wee bit over the place from me, I apologise, but I have been a bit fucked. Anyway,
Everyone sat there thinking he's sober. We can understand him better. It's fine.
this is the best one he's ever done. Get that guy COVID every week. Lose, bruise. He's trumped. He's trumped even our pod 15. I noticed he's doing a Black Friday code, which apparently goes to November 30th. So Black 20, BLACK, no space, 20. Black 20. Go and get yourself. He's restocked tons of stuff. He's also now in the process of getting the two promoters, one pod, two promoters, one sauce, which is going to be burnt peach, spicy burnt peach. So looking forward to that.
Wow.
Go and get some hot sauces. Show us a picture of your order online and support the big man because he supports us. Talking about people that support us, Kate Gray has been a massive supporter of the pod pretty much since the start. Buys all the merch, supports us in Kofi, and she got drawn the last time. She wanted a hug in Birmingham, I think for both of us, done to suggest Intrepid or Impalement. It's two bands that she's in. Go and check those bands out. And being cheeky, her words, not mine, a Cantina Pass, which is a VIP upgrade for Damnation, which I'm happy to provide Kate. So there you go, a 3-in-1 deal for Kate, who supported us and through Kofi from the very start. If you would like to have as good a luck as Kate, then get involved and support us in the Kofi. This week's pick is a guy called Ross Atkinson or Atkinson. So Ross, you let us know what you fancy for next week.
Good. Okay. On the record,
On the record, James, hit us up.
I'm going to choose the new song by Coheed and Cambria called "Searching for Tomorrow." New album is coming, I believe, prob early next year, I think. I, I was kind of big into Coheed on their third and fourth albums, and then I sort of stopped listening to them. And I've come back in on the last couple, and this sort of new Coheed and Cambria direction, I actually really like. It's pretty poppy, but still got like this song starts with a sort of spidery riff that I really love, and then just goes into pure Coheed and Cambria pop rock. I'm into it. So yeah, check it out. It will not be for all tastes. Some people
The
will hate
vocals
this,
are
but
tough. The vocals are tough.
yeah,
I think I quite like it,
I
but
like them.
it just I might give it another bash. I think the last time I tried to get into Coheed was when they played that Art Tangent. It just the vocals are rough, but I'll give that another bash. Then I am going with This Will Destroy You. Now this is inspired by they've just announced a UK tour with Nordic Giants. You guys doing the Bristol date?
Yep.
Very nice. They're going to do their debut album, which is an absolute peach. Unfortunately, their masterpiece is the EP Young Mountain. So I'm hoping they're going to do the debut album and then we'll get a wee bit off the Young Mountain EP as well. I've seen a few people ask, "Oh, what kind of post rock is This Will Destroy You?" And I'm here to tell you, God tier post rock. And then the Young Mountain EP is up there with the top five. So there's a track that ends that. I think people, the newer This Will Destroy You's get quite passive. It's not got quite as much punch as the earlier music. There are some remedies worse than the disease. Fucking hell, Gavin. There are some remedies worse than the disease. Managed it. Is an absolute corker that rounds off that album, and it does have the big climactic crescendo at the end, which we all love for a post rock. Reminds me a lot the earlier This Will Destroy You to the type of post rock that We Lost to Sea play, which is my favourite. So yes, go and check that out, especially if you're going to that tour, and hopefully we'll see some of those tracks on it too. And to wrap us up, go and buy some fucking tour tickets, people.
Yes, we're going on tour. Did we mention that?
When we mentioned, maybe we mentioned it too, but we've already forgot. Do you remember when we started the pod? We says what we'll do every time is we'll always ask people to like and subscribe, and we'll really push that heavy. And I think it
Yeah.
lasts for 3 episodes, and then we stopped doing it. And then we've got to tour and said we'll make sure every pod will say like get these last tickets and that. So in my defence, the last I heard, Manchester had about 10 tickets left, maybe less. It must be close to selling. It must have five or less to go. So let's get in that one up next, and then have Bristol, Glasgow, and London follow. So, aye, as far as I'm aware, I've never heard anything in the last week about what it's been. As far as I'm aware, everything's going hunky dory with that. So, thank you so much. And if you're in the point now, payday will be coming up. You can get the tickets. Let's sell a few of these dates out.
Yeah, let's do it. We're starting to plan our attack, aren't we? So yeah, let's get it
And he
let's get it
quickly touched
sorted.
on it, and I think we'll answer the next question. Yes, we will be talking about some subjects live that we would be less comfortable talking about being recorded and posted on the internet for some arsehole on Twitter to clip and try to get us cancelled. So yes is the answer to that. James,
Great.
until I feel better, mate, I made it.
Well done, mate. Really good.
See you after.